All right. Welcome. We back again, once again, time and time again, my friends. And what we do over here is have a live stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And what I do is just go over what the market has been doing or looking to do for the next few days. Just giving you a little insight on the direction of the market. Mainly the majors, a few commodities, BTC as well. But really just a place to chill out, talk about all things trading, and really have a fun time to ask any questions, go over any charts you'd like to in the chat. Go ahead and drop those in the chat if you'd like for me to go over any specific questions, talk about that, or go over any specific charts, give you a little insight on those as well, the ones that I may not cover in this live stream. So if you are interested in that, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you turn the post notifications on. That way you get updated and notified anytime I do a live stream like this here or post any educational content on this channel. So with everything said, let's get right into it. We look at XAU USD on the monthly time frame here on the month of December, on the day of the 23rd, which is a Friday. We have the market pushing to the upside right around this area that we like to see the market come into. Previous structure resistance that should act as resistance one more time. On the weekly time frame though, we are starting to get some sort of retracement. It looks like we want to have the next candle that wants to fill in the wick, so it could provide some more continuation to the upside. But on the daily time frame, we are previously below some structure resistance as we came into this area not once, twice, but thrice, and from this area we've pulled to the downside, coming down to retest previous structure support that should act as support one more time. So we're just ranging in between this area as we are right now, where we could see a possible breakout to the upside, more likely to come retest some of these areas before continuing the overall trend on the monthly. So be aware of that. If we do look at XAG USD on the monthly time frame, we are pushing to the upside very aggressively. And then if we drop down to the weekly time frame, you can see that this week we are pushing to the upside after retesting some support. And then if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we've had this big push to the upside, moving to the downside. But today, as we are pushing to the upside, where we would like to see the market come back, which it has retested previous structure resistance for this W formation, move to the downside, move back up, move back down, explosion to the upside, come back, retest the neckline, previous structure resistance, now turn support for more continuation to the upside. Just a simple TMCP, the most common pattern in the market, which is a pattern that does complete 80 to 90% of the time. So from here we could see more explosions to the upside on XAG USD to go ahead and retest some of these monthly structures, monthly levels. And then if we do look at XBT USD on the monthly time frame, you can see we did come down and retest previous structure resistance, now acting as support right here. So we had resistance all in this area. Over in this area we are having some support being created and respected. And if we look at the weekly time frame, you can see we are still ranging in between this area, which we've talked about multiple times on previous live streams. Now if we drop down to the daily time frame though, on the daily you can see we are starting to break above some daily resistance, where we could see more continuation to the upside if we do get a break and close above some of these areas. On US oil on the monthly time frame, we are pushing to the downside. We've broken and closed below previous structure resistance that should act as support right in this area, and then we've broken and closed below it, started to push down to the downside, where we are starting to create the candle that we want to see the next one fill in the wick on the monthly time frame. Then if we drop down to the weekly time frame though, you can see we are above some weekly structure right around in here where we had previous structure support that should act as resistance right around this area. Now we are breaking to the upside, creating some movement to the upside where we could see some continuation. But if we do drop down to the daily time frame, you can see on the daily time frame as well, we are breaking and creating structures to the upside, looking a little bit bullish, where if we do get some sort of retracement, you like to see it come down in this area, and we could see more continuation to the upside once it does start to break away from that area, but that is some ways away. So best probabilities is to stay away from this pair for a minute until we get a clear indication on what direction the market is headed. Now we can hop into the Forex market on Euro USD. Euro USD, we are pushing to the upside on the monthly. On the weekly, you can see that we are continuing to the upside. We still have the candle that we want to see the next one fill in the wick. And then on the daily time frame, you can see that we've had the retracement coming back down, retesting previous structure resistance right in this area. That is now acting as support, where we could see the continuation to the upside for higher highs to be created. GBP USD on the monthly time frame, pushing to the upside, pushed to the upside very aggressively, and it has then gotten rejected on the monthly time frame. We did have previous structure support right around this area that should act as resistance all around through this area, and it's starting to. And now if we look at the weekly time frame, though, you can see that on the weekly we've had a clear impulse to the upside, breaking above several levels of structure where retracement is due. Now we could see the retracement coming into some of these levels, which is very likely, a high probability, and from there we could see the continuation to the upside. So as we are seeing a lot of retracements or movements to the downside right now from a higher time frame perspective, it could be short-lived. Now if we do drop down to the daily time frame, you can see we are below some daily structure, where until we start to break above some daily structure, we could then see more continuations to the upside. AUD USD on the monthly time frame, what we could see is previous structure resistance, or previous structure support came down in this area, got rejected, moved to the downside, came back into it, retested previous structure support, now turned resistance, pushed to the downside on the monthly. On the weekly, you can see we did have the push to the downside. Now we're starting the retracement, but we came into previous structure support on the weekly that is acting as support. And if we do take a look at it on the daily time frame, you can see we had a very aggressive move to the downside from the daily time frame perspective, where we did come back and retest the other side of the trend line, and we could see more continuation to the downside until we see a break above some daily structure. So if we do not see bullish movement on this market, we can only expect there to be more continuation to the downside just for pattern completion. Now on USD CAD from the monthly time frame, we are bullish. Nice and easy TMCP. The most common pattern in the market is a break above structure, come back, retest previous structure, resistance in this case as support for more continuation to the upside for a higher high to be created. On the weekly, though, you can see we did have the push to the upside, came around, found some resistance and previous structure support that should act as resistance still broken through, and we started a little move to the downside for a retracement. Now if we look at the daily time frame, you can see we are just consolidating amongst the highs, but we do have this pattern here stopping us from creating higher highs. Is a left shoulder head, right shoulder, where we could see more continuation to the downside before we start to see a movement to the upside if the market wants to do that. So not really high probabilities on this market as it is right now. On the monthly time frame of NZD USD, we did have a push into previous structure resistance, previous structure support right around here, as well as previous structure support that we did break above, but we pushed into there and got rejected very aggressively. We could see more continuation to the downside from this market. On the monthly time frame, on the weekly, we have a left shoulder here, head, and we could see the right shoulder come into some of these areas before a continuation to the upside if the market wants to do that. So more continuation to the downside from the weekly time frame. And then if we look at the daily time frame, you can see we are below some daily structure, where from there we could just expect more continuation to the downside until broken above, but we could see a possible TMCP1 to the downside on this market. Now USD CHF on the monthly time frame, on the monthly pushing to the downside, breaking below some monthly support, where we could see more continuation. On the weekly, as you can see, we are pushing to the downside, but not aggressively, actually getting rejected from these areas. And if we take a look at the daily time frame, you can see we found a double bottom right around some of these levels at the lows, where from there we could see more continuation to the upside, Not necessarily a reversal, but we could see the market create some bullish movements before creating another move to the downside once again, just from a short-term perspective on this market. Now USD JPY on the monthly time frame, we are pushing to the downside very aggressively, breaking below some monthly resistance that should act as support, but is currently getting disrespected. And if we look at the weekly time frame, you can see we are just creating some of the most common patterns in the market is a break below some structure, come back, retest some levels, continue the trend, come back, retest previous structure support, now turn resistance for more continuation to the downside. From there, we could expect more continuation to the downside, even though we are coming into some weekly support. Now on the daily time frame, though, we do have a very aggressive move, which is what could provide more continuation to the downside, is that the fact that this candle has pushed to the downside very aggressively, and from there we are starting to create some stepping stones where from there, if broken below, we could see a massive drop on this market. Now that is pretty much the Forex market. We can slide over to BTC USD. And on BTC USD on the monthly time frame, we could see that we have simply put previous structure resistance that over here should act as support. All this area is not one level, not one price point, is a general area. And then if we do drop down to the weekly time frame, though, we are still bearish as we are below some weekly structure. And then one more time, if we do drop down to the daily time frame, you can see that on the daily time frame we are just consolidating in between these two levels, where we have previous structure resistance acting as resistance and previous structure support acting as support. So either way this market breaks out to the upside or to the downside, we could see more continuation in that direction. Now that is pretty much it. If you do have any specific questions or any specific pairs that you'd like me to go over, now's the time to put them in the chat. But if not, I can assume that everyone is good and I can let you get straight into your weekend. All right, so I'm not seeing too much. If that's the case, I hope everyone's had a profitable week on and off the charts. And until next time,